Conversations with HJM. I'm Lisa Harris-Jones.
And I'm Tommy Tompsett.
And today we have Democratic Nominee for Governor of the state of Maryland, Wes Moore. Thanks for joining us.
It's my joy. It's great to be with you both.
All right.
Again.
Yeah, I know.
Again.
So this time last year, you had just announced a couple months before. What's it been like to be a first-time candidate? The good, the bad. Tell me about that year.
Yeah. This year's been magic. It really has been. I mean, you know, when we're sitting here a year ago, you know, I was one of many people who had announced, you know, that they were gonna run for governor. And you know, to be here now as the nominee, I tell you, even hearing you say the Democratic nominee,
Yeah.
it's still just very humbling. Because I think this state, I think we're on pace for this next decade to do something really special. And what I think one of the great things about this past year is it's just given us a chance to go out and talk to folks all around the state, hear what's on their mind, what are the biggest issues, what are the biggest concerns, and what are the biggest hopes. And you know, and I tell you, I think going out and talking to folks, it helps you both to realize that they're going to give you the answers every time. If you just go out and ask, if you just go out and door knock, if you go out and work, they're going to tell you, and they're going to give you the roadmap. And I think the big thing also is all the initiatives that we pull together, all the platforms that we have, you know, we've gone out with our campaign about how to create platforms for work and wages and wealth for all families and not just some. How to make sure that our state can be more competitive, but also be more equitable, and that it doesn't have to be a choice. How do we make sure we're addressing and closing the racial wealth gap? How are we addressing the issue of climate and the environment? That these are issues that Marylanders are telling us that collectively we can actually accomplish it. So this year's been amazing, and I just know that it's a precursor for what I think the next 8 years are going to be like for our state.
So one of the big issues for this election cycle that we're at least hearing revolves around education. Maryland historically has had a phenomenal education system, being ranked #1 in the nation for a long time. We have now slid to 4. Some people say we've slid to 8. I'm going to ask you a two-part question. How, as governor, do you think that you'll be able to implement the blueprint for Maryland's future, which is a historic investment in our education system? And can you, as governor, give us non-disparate impacts, jurisdiction to jurisdiction when it comes to education? Because we see that now, that you may be in one county, but you get a different result in another county through the education system.
Absolutely. I mean, and education and getting education right is going to be the foundation for everything that we are trying to get done, right? I mean, you think about it right now, where Maryland has 2 available jobs for every person filing for unemployment. And people say, well, how does that make sense? It makes sense because we have a very vibrant and a very diversified economy in the state of Maryland. We're just not doing a good enough job of preparing people to be able to fill into those jobs, right? So education is going to be the key of addressing every other issue that we have, whether it's public safety, whether it's economic growth, across the board. In terms of thinking about the blueprint, the answer is yes. The blueprint is going to be a core part of that. I am fully committed to making sure that we are going to fully fund the blueprint. But then in partnership, we're going to make sure that it is properly implemented. I was very proud of the fact that I worked on the blueprint, proud of the fact that I testified on behalf of the blueprint, proud of the fact that I was able to work with lawmakers to make sure the components of the blueprint that are in the blueprint are actually now going to be implemented. So for example, things like making sure we have free pre-K for every child in need in the state of Maryland. We're starting too late as a state. And if 80% of brain development happens in a child by the time that child is 5, we've got to make sure that we're doing the work before that child even hits 5 to prepare them for long-term academic and economic success. That we are going to invest in apprenticeship programs and trade programs, and making sure there are pathways for students who choose to go on to become a carpenter or a pipe fitter or an iron worker, to know that they're going to be long-term, not just academic, but economic pathways for them as well. You know, we are going to be the first state in this country that is going to have a service year option for every single high school graduate. Every high school graduate will have a chance to have a paid year of service to the state of Maryland, and they can choose however they want to do it. Working on environmental issues, housing issues, education issues, it's their choice. But we're going to do it because it's helped to address the college affordability crisis. We're going to do it because I'm a big believer in experiential learning and giving people a chance to learn and experience what it is they want to do. And also at this time of political divisiveness and vitriol, it is service that will help to save us. because those who serve together generally stay together. And so thinking about all this in a holistic fashion is not just going to be important for Maryland, it's going to be imperative for our long-term growth and our long-term competitiveness.
This time last year, it was like 5,000 degrees here, okay? Today, much cooler day. So there's a lot of discussion about climate change. What is that? What will be your policy as governor of Maryland? What will you work on in that area?
Climate change and climate impact has cost this state over $10 billion over the past decade because we don't have resilient infrastructure. The fact that we are having 100-year storms every 5 years in Howard County. I mean, this is serious and this is real. The fact that in the Eastern Shore, if we do not change trajectories, we could watch a situation where a quarter of the Eastern Shore is underwater in the next 50 years. So this is serious. And so a few different things that we are going to do within our administration, and literally within the first 100 days, we're going to appoint, the first time ever, we're going to have a Chief Sustainability Mitigation and Resilience Officer for the state of Maryland, whose job is to work across sectors, working with the private sector, the nonprofit sector, government, to be able to ensure that we're leveraging every possible aspect of our capital stack and capital budget to be able to address these long-term issues. Making sure we have that coordinating force around it who's going to be reporting directly to me is something that is going to help prioritize this measurement. Our ability to be able to say that we are going to be at net zero emissions in 25 and 100% clean energy by 2035, and ensuring that every segment and sector of our society has to be able to have that as a North Star, and working with the legislature and local governments to be able to achieve that. Being able to make investments in solar and wind technologies, and also the electrification of the grid. So when we say by the end of my second term that every single government vehicle will be an electric vehicle, in order for us to do that, it means we have to accelerate the electrification of the grid so we can even deal with the capacity issues. Focusing on investments in battery storage so we can actually use that and actually turn Maryland into a net exporter of clean energy. If you think about the power of our state, both geographic and topographic power of our state, we are truly on pace to be the leader in clean energy.
I want to briefly get back to our workforce. So we're very fortunate. We have a low unemployment rate in Maryland, especially when you look at it compared to the rest of the country. Yeah. But even with that low unemployment rate, healthcare, we're still either underinsured or still a lot of folks that are uninsured.
That's right.
Yeah. Can you step into that space as governor and kind of remedy that issue?
Yeah. We can and we need to. And so, and it's interesting because we have a relatively low unemployment rate within the state of Maryland. But here are the things we do know is that our underemployment rate is still stubbornly high in the state of Maryland. The amount of people who we have who are working jobs, in some cases multiple jobs, and still living below a poverty line or just above a poverty line, right? The underemployed. That's a number that we still have to address and we have not fully addressed as a state. Also, Maryland is still one of the toughest states in this country to actually start a business, right? Right now, Maryland is ranked as number 38 in the country in terms of our ability to start businesses. And so we have a unique chance to be able to help teach our students how not just to be employees, but how also to be employers. And it's important that you mentioned that the healthcare and the health system, because one of the largest employers and one of the fastest growing economic engines within our state is our healthcare industry. Right? They're people who are involved in some way, shape, or form in healthcare. It is truly one of the jewels of Maryland's economy and Maryland's basic infrastructure. And so when you think about the fact that we have these medical institutions and medical facilities that are tethered to the state, we are going to have a state government that's going to work in partnership with them to both be able to increase access, making sure, and I believe that health insurance is something that all of us should be able to have. Access and affordable, both access and increased affordability for health insurance for all Marylanders. And so that's things we can actually work in partnership with our remarkable health providers and our large health providers, both to deal with the issue of employment, but also to deal with the issue of basic health care and basic health care supports that's going to help to keep our economy going.
Speaking to business, doing business here in Maryland, being able to start a business in Maryland, as governor, you'll sit on the most powerful board of Public Works, and looking at the polls, if the polls are accurate, you'll be sitting next to current State Treasurer Derek Davis and Delegate Brooke Learman as Controller of Maryland. Yep. What does that mean to Marylanders? What does that mean to small business, minority business, woman-owned businesses, with the three of you sitting there controlling the Board of Public Works?
You know, I'm incredibly excited about this new Board of Public Works and the makeup of the new Board of Public Works, because it means we're going to have increased accountability. That questions that need to be asked are going to be asked. And that includes things like making sure we're fixing a broken procurement system in the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland right now has a 29% procurement goal for minority business enterprise, MBE participation. The state of Maryland has also come nowhere near hitting those numbers. And it's because we have this, free waiver process. It's because of the fact that we continue to allow people to, get contracts because they're making, good faith efforts to allow measurements of participation. That's not enough. I always say, if you have a 29%, if you have a goal at something that you never come close to hitting, it's not a goal, it's a suggestion. Mm-hmm. We're going to turn Maryland from having a 29% suggestion to having a 29% goal, and a goal that we plan on hitting and a goal we plan on achieving. That we have to do a better job of being able to increase access and liquidity to capital for so many of our small businesses, where one of the greatest challenges you have for small business is the early stage, right? It's when you're in that friends and family round. The challenge is, for a lot of members of our community, we have different friends and different family. And so you don't have the same ability to be able to grow and scale a business. That's something that the state can uniquely help on. The state can uniquely help on when it comes to things like basic information and access to information for what our small businesses are going to need. That there are programs and platforms and capital that are available to small businesses, but if I don't know how to get that information, if I don't have access to that information, it's going to be impossible for me to be able to access that capital. Increasing liquidity to communities is going to be incredibly important, and it's something, when you think about what the Board of Public Works is going to do, that every contract that is dealing with state dollars and state capital to ensure not just economic growth, but fairness. And so those questions have got to be asked from the Board of Public Works. And I'm excited that hopefully come November or come January, as a new member of the Board of Public Works, those questions are going to be asked.